Welcome to the Last in Line podcast, where we discuss faith, hope, and truth in the lives of amazing servant leaders. You are in the right place if you crave purpose and if you hunger for a life of significance. This podcast applies biblical truth to our daily lives, and we pray that you walk away encouraged and inspired. This is the Last in Line podcast.
All right, guys, I've got a guest today that he's gonna get an introduction, but I gotta lay the groundwork here as to what happened with this whole podcast invite that I sent him. So part of the cardinal rule, and from what the bigwigs in podcasting, which is everybody but me, have to say is rarely do you just invite a buddy of yours. And I'm like, well, okay. I try to go by that a little bit, but today might be an exception. Not just because he's a buddy, but we relatively almost came out of the womb at the same time. Moms next to each other, grew up in the same town, been friends forever, literally. And if I had a brother, which I don't, if I could pick one, it would be this guy. And so you guys are in for a good treat because you get to maybe hear some crap about me that I don't always share. And then you get some expertise. But before I introduce him formally, I got to say he's going to try to do the humility thing. He's going to try to say he doesn't really have much to say. He's going to try to pretend like he doesn't have any wisdom or that he hadn't done much or why am I on this podcast? I'm telling you, if he'll just let loose, you guys are going to be in for a treat today. But Billy Long, my childhood buddy, brother from another mother, welcome finally to Last in Line podcast, my friend.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. And it's always good to see your face. Always.
Dude. That's something you don't hear every day. It's something I don't hear every day. It's always a pleasure to see your face. Man, what was your first? Be honest. So I've had this podcast for 5 years. It's up, ticking almost up to the 500 episodes. If I play it, my cards right, I might release this one as my 500th. No, that'd be too long, too far away. But what was your reaction, man, whenever I said, hey, Billy, do you want to be on the podcast?
The message you sent me said it started with, I think I know your answer, blah, 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 blah. But weirdly enough, there was not a pause in my brain. I immediately was like, yeah, if you need me, you got me. I'll do anything for you, first of all, but this is not my cup of tea. Okay, so apologies to everyone that may see this and and be like, what was that about? But I just had no hesitancy at all. I just and then when I answered you, I asked you, I said, what did you think my answer would be? And you were like, absolutely not. It's like, so I was like, bam, right there. God works in mysterious ways. Yeah. We have solved everything right there.
There you go.
But no, I like I said, you ask, I'm there.
Well, I know, and that doesn't surprise me because that's just who you are. And you would literally probably cut off your arm if one of us who grew up together needed it. So it's not just me, but the listeners need to know that there really are people that really do have friends like that. And if you don't, man, I hope you find one and it's never too late. But I bet you probably have somebody that you've lost touch with that you should reach out to. And maybe at the very least, this right here might get somebody kickstarted to do that and make that phone call, write that letter, send that text. Maybe it will. Crazy enough, you are the second. Probably should have been the first, but you are the second class of 1990 Sapulpa Chieftain to be on the podcast. And I think we both know Eric Maddox was on. Eric, did a little thing going through the service where he stumbled upon finding Saddam Hussein and did all that thing. And so, you know, he kind
Yeah.
of trumps your
See,
crappie efficiency.
you just knocked me down so far. Like, I mean, I don't even know how to
I had to
compare with that.
justify why you weren't
It's
first, man.
it's
That's on
fine.
me. It's on me.
Yeah, no, but yeah, very proud of him. Great guy, and
Yeah. Yeah.
he deserved the front row. But
Yeah.
you know, back to what you said about um, you know, friends, lifetime friends, short term friends, whatever. You know, if it crosses your mind, you know, reach out. Maybe there's
Mm-hmm.
something that's tugging on you to say, hey, you
Mm-hmm.
know, visit with them, call them. See, you know, the worst you can do is not answer.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
so we stay in touch, which I
Mm-hmm.
love. You know, your family's my family, vice versa,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
you know, there's a lot of importance to that in my world. So
Yeah. Well, speaking of family, ours are getting bigger. Yours is about to get a little bigger. Mine did a year ago.
yeah,
And I know I think you have a step grandkid, but we're about to have a baby in the Long family.
yes,
And I guess so to give the listeners an idea, he's got twin girls. So, the last name won't be Long necessarily, but little baby Billy coming into the world. What are we going to do when that happens?
oh well, we're going to do a lot more fishing. You know, all I've had is girls. So I've got the twins that are 30, and my youngest, I don't use the word step, but my
Right,
daughter,
right.
she's my youngest, came into my life when she was 6. She's getting ready to turn 19. And so all I've had is girls. And, but, you know, they do girl stuff and all that, but we still hunt, fish. You know, girls can do anything a
Yeah.
guy can do. So they're right there on my hip as much as I can coerce them into doing so. Um, uh, the grandson, I got a picture over here because I was wanting to brag on him real quick. I'm going to show you
Nice.
this
Holy
guy.
smokes. He's getting
This
big.
guy, he's going to turn 6 this month.
Wow.
And this guy, you know, he's the pleasure of watching him play everything he does. He's really good at baseball, and which is, you know,
Yeah.
we got a love for that. And he's just it's amazing. So I've already kind of started down that road.
Mm-hmm.
He calls me Pops, and
Mm-hmm.
so that's pretty cool. I like
That's what they
that.
call me. That's what they call me. So that's good.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. But the newest edition will be here in July.
Wow.
Everything's great, healthy. So we're you know, I'm kind of just following your lead. Everything you're doing, I'm trying to do the same.
Man,
So
July is going to be here like in a blink of an eye too.
yeah,
Well, I'm excited. I can't wait to see you. I mean, they are, we're putty in their hands and they can't even talk yet. But um we've known each other for, I don't know, 5 decades. Put it in that perspective.
yeah, yeah.
You kind of set the bar really high when you just retired recently. And I don't know anybody our age. Well, and I don't talk to a whole lot of people that back at school, but like I don't know if anybody else is quite that lucky yet. But you kind of set the table here for our tight circle. So what is it like so far? You're all of about 5 seconds into retirement, but
Yeah, it's you know, you just wake up and that thought, well, it's still sinking in, I'll say, but the thought of that thing that you're responsible for today or to do whatever is just slowly lingering and getting further and further away, which is awesome, you know. So you start worrying about your tea time and your, you know, what time the fish are going to bite and, you know, stuff like that. But, you know, I was very, and a word that you'll probably hear me say on this numerous times, because I think there's one word that would describe me in my opinion, and that's blessed. I've
mm,
just been, you know, I know lucky's thrown out there a lot, but I think there's a lot of factors that come into my
mm,
stuff that just take you right to blessed. And, you know, I was there, I started in 1992, and, you know, we left our side by side world of studying really hard and learning, and where we I went straight in. I had everything I did was not even close to what I thought I was going to do. So I started this world on some advice from, you remember Tim Tiger?
Oh yeah.
Ran across Tim in a grocery store, and he said, "Hey, they're hiring." 1992. I thought, why not go try? So went and tricked them into hiring me, and I started out as a welder. You know, I knew when I went to college, when we were together, you know, I had this. I wanted to be a baseball player so bad.
Yeah.
And I really thought I was trying to force myself into this major, this thing that I thought I was going to be in life later on and really be, you know, the talk of the town or somebody spectacular. So I picked optometry. That's dumb. I mean, it just wasn't going to work.
Looks cool on a sheet when it says major, right? In the yearbook, if it says major, it says optometrist.
This guy must be smart.
Thank you. That's me.
This guy is upper level. Well, you know, I changed all that. And so, but anyway, started and started out as a welder of all things, you know, welding on pressure pipe, and all through my career, I wore a lot of different hats and supervision and everything. But you know, it's another blessing. I mean, I had a great career. I raised my family. I have the opportunity now to retire and be fine. It's just, it was you know, maybe a point in my life that I really didn't know what I was going to do. And I just jumped on this and it fit. So, it all worked out.
Well, and I'd be an idiot not to mention the guy that set the table for your welding career, most likely, indirectly or directly, but your father. I mean, Larry Long was an idol of all of ours growing up. Like, that dude was just the guy. And you knew that if he ever took his eyeglasses off, somebody was going to get hurt. And it was usually in a situation to protect one of us or his family. So the glasses didn't come off often. But no, I always just admired. He was just a giant. Of course, everybody was kind of a giant to me anyway, but just this big, tall, strong, kind of gave me an idea. He and my dad kind of gave me, those were the two people I looked to, like, those are men. Like, those are what men are. Like, today we have, it's a gray area, you know, and unfortunately, and from one day to the next, it could change. But no, you and I had a pretty good idea of what that was. And so, yeah, the welding, I could see you just kind of, that happened and it worked out.
You know, the one thing that he always told me growing up to not do was be a welder.
Yeah, I'm sure. My dad told me the opposite of what he did. Yeah.
It, you know, it just happened. But, you know, our dads were a very pivotal point in our life. I mean, we was in the town that they knew before we got home. And when you didn't want that situation, they were very, very fair, but they were very stern and follow through men that held you accountable. And not just my dad to me, your dad to me, my dad. I mean,
for sure.
So I never wanted Kay to look at me, you know, crossways and stuff. So I thought, man, that's not good.
Yeah, it didn't help that my dad was the coach of our high school baseball team too. So, yeah, you're right. If we ever stepped into it with one of them, we stepped into it with all of them, like all the dads. And that's what I think the world might be missing too now is people used to have permission to whip someone else's kid. Like, I don't care who that offends. I don't think it's going to offend any of my listeners because they're all just like us. But no, I mean, you step out of line at your house and your mom would probably smack me in the head. And then your dad would look at me like, don't make me get out of this recliner. And I'm like, you got it. That's a deal.
Yeah. Those days are gone. But, that was the accountability, and I went to your house, anyone's home,
Yeah.
or just public and period, just,
Yeah.
you acted better out than you do at home.
That's right.
So, yeah, they were, we never stop receiving that guidance, and then go to reference fishing. You got that big guide on your fishing pole that's up by your handle,
Yeah.
and it goes all the way down that pole to the very end, and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and you don't need as much guidance, but it never ends.
Yeah.
So, from our parents to my wife to my kids to friends or people I'm around now, there's still that accountability. And so I think, I mean, not braggadocious by no means, but we're good people. We're good people. It's gonna, if we say it, it's gonna happen.
Yeah, we turned out decent. Now, you worked for one company your whole professional life. I mean, over 30 years, and that doesn't happen anymore.
No.
What do you say to your kids when it comes to, and my outline is what it is. I'm probably going to flip it all upside down, but I want to talk about this because it matters. What are dads saying? What should dads be saying? What are you saying to your kids when it comes to like locking in at a place? Now, you're not married to a job any more than they're really married to you, because companies turn on employees all the time. But what was been kind of the secret to you staying that long period of time? And then kind of what are you saying to your kids about loyalty to a company, even when it's hard?
Well, I always taught them and expected them to be honest with people, to be leaders, help people when they don't expect it, to really have the longevity in the job today, like I had, is, like you said, unheard of. But just be a good human. I mean, the people will buy into you if you treat them well, if you're honest. To me, it's really it's simple. People really get complex with it in my mind and whatnot, but it's just like, like do unto others. That's the one that they ought to be putting on a flag and hanging outside the house, and if people could really follow that. Now, I'm not saying I've been all that every day of my life, but I do try to walk it all the time. I had when the kids were growing up, there's a lot of, I like to just be goofy, have fun, say things, where they catch me. And sometimes there's that point that they don't know if you're standing on, the mountain, or if they're like still, and you're like, look, I need you to zero in here. And in my world with my kids, I always said, I promise this is the time. I promise this is the moment to, whatever. And that's just been something that's gone through our family. They say it to each other. They'll even ask me if I'm joking around. They're like, you promise? And so that's my accountability, from them. And I loved it so much that I even got promise tattooed on me. But it's never wavered. I've never said it and not meant it. So, it sounds goofy, but it's something to be proud of, because, maybe, I don't know, that's just my MO or something. But
yeah. And what's funny when you talk about that, and you mentioned like the golden rule, and we were raised on biblical principles, even when we weren't really Bible people. Like
Mm-mm.
you didn't grow up in church, maybe went on Easter with my grandma when she would drag us or something, but I mean, I think we had a Bible. I don't know where it was, but we always believed though in God, country, family, right? Like those were the
Sure.
staples. But now that we're older, like it feels like I I mean, I've made so many. I guess when you get to the bottom of the barrel of so many mistakes and failures and just crap that you've done, there's only one way to look, right? There's only one place to go, and so up. And so I feel like you and I have devoted more to our Christian faith as we got older, and maybe that's just normal for everybody. But man, I didn't realize, but think about it. Don't you think we were raised on stuff that was biblically founded and biblically
Oh yeah.
rooted without
Yeah.
really even being told we were religious, which, that's a whole new thing. But yeah, what do you
Yeah.
think about that? Like, are kids getting that nowadays?
I think I'm again, I'm very blessed. My kids um have always been involved in church just
Mm,
willingly on their own.
hmm,
They just are very passionate
hmm.
about it and follow and I when I was young, we were young. I grew up Southern Baptist. I didn't know any more what that meant than it was a
Yeah,
title. It was Southern Baptist. That's what I
yeah,
am. What are you? And so later in life, um, when the kids were born, I actually before that I'd started going to church camps with buddies.
yeah, yeah,
It was a Methodist church camp.
yeah.
Well, now I got a new title. I had a pedigree that was like, and John, I'll tell you, I didn't know one from the next. I
Mm-mm.
knew that I had to dress really nice at this one, but it was church to me.
Mm, mm,
I mean, at the end of the day, the message seemed the same,
mm,
and but just I grew up knowing that you know being godly was um, protecting,
mm.
honoring, loving,
Yeah,
honesty. There's all these things, and you know, yeah, I don't know. I can't sit here and swap scriptures with you. That won't
yeah,
happen. I just
yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
Give me a minute, and I'll Google what you
Sure,
want. But
sure.
I know that I have like a core base, maybe.
Yep, yep.
Like my skeleton's all good. Now this outer
Right.
part maybe a little, huh? But um, you know, I pray.
Hmm.
Um, Nobody ever knows. My kids and my wife and my life and my parent, they've been in more prayers. I've got family that's endured some hard times,
Right,
and
right.
I've always secretly, I guess, not that I'm ashamed. I don't,
No.
I'm not scared of what
Yep,
anyone thinks, but it just kind of took my own time and way,
yep.
and would do that. So if that makes me a little more faithful, I don't know, but um,
Yeah, no,
you
it's
know,
I think it's all about what's in your heart, and you said it just right. Like that's exactly, it doesn't have to be. I mean, I know a lot of people that can quote me the Bible inside and out that I wouldn't, pee on them if they were on fire when it comes to
right?
how hypocritical or,
Yeah,
judgmental they are. And I probably have been that way early on, getting to know the Lord and things. And I just didn't know any better. I'm like, well, maybe I'm supposed to be like this. We didn't know. I don't know. I'm still learning. I don't care
oh,
about the scripture reciting or memorization, even though it's helped me just because throughout my day, I want to be able to call on something, and
sure,
the world hasn't figured it out. So you do it in your way, in your time, and
yeah,
I was, you mentioned your family gone through some things. Like I wanted to maybe talk about some of that because the guys listening to this, I would say everybody's been through something, right? And maybe
mm-hmm.
not it's a sliding scale on how severe certain things are, but to different people they're different, right? But
Yeah,
you had I mean, you lost your mom. I know that. And she was like mom to everybody we graduated with, it felt like. But
Yeah.
and then that was, how long ago was that?
December 2014.
14. That
Yeah.
not that long ago. I mean, it's a long time, but it doesn't feel that long. I don't know how else to say that. My dad was the next year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then your sister-in-law, your brother's wife, got
Hmm.
really sick, leukemia. Am I right?
Right. In
Now take
2000.
me through that. Yeah, take me through some of that in the family. Like maybe how y'all did it reveal some things like where you guys got closer? Obviously, you probably did, but you and your brother, you and just family in general.
Yeah, it was, pretty scary. 2017, she was diagnosed with
Hmm.
leukemia, and there's one leukemia worse than the other in the name.
Hmm.
I can't tell you all that
Hmm.
medical stuff, but it was a battle. I mean, it was really tough. And maybe one of the things, so she battled that. My time frames may be off, but I'm going to say 2018, early 19, cancer free.
Mm.
So, and this is obviously not to minimize everything that happened in between, but here we are. She whipped it. We're great.
Wow.
Then it came back more aggressive than ever.
Mm.
So you're almost like, that's a question out there. It's like,
Hmm. Yeah.
what else? What's this meant for? Why has this got to happen again or whatever and stuff? So, um, I saw a side in my brother that was that was um, deep. I mean,
Mm.
he really logged in, and this was probably their moment to just become as close as they ever have
Hmm.
spiritually, whatever, however you want to say it. But so when it came back, obviously the battle was on again,
Hmm.
and she ended up having a bone marrow transplant after so long. And I mean, they lived in Oklahoma City at OU Medical. They were
Yeah.
just not even at their home. In fact, while they were living down there one winter, their house flooded from a broken pipe in the winter. I
Mm.
mean,
I
I'm like,
remember that.
it's
Mm.
like, you just keep kicking them. But the resilience of people is amazing. I mean, so they battled through that again, cancer free. Everything's great. She's a beautiful, beautiful woman. She's one of the best people you ever meet, and they're doing great. They're just so
Wow.
that's miracle blessing number one.
Wow.
So my brother-in-law, I'm very close with, was diagnosed with a brain tumor. We had been on a hunt together, and just things were different. And we had Tracy and I, my wife, we had taken a trip to Cabo, and I bet we hadn't been on the ground 6 hours, just barely into our trip, and got a phone call that something happened to him. He couldn't walk. This guy's 50 years old. Nothing's wrong, that you wouldn't think. But anyway, he was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And so it was inoperable. And I mean, I remember I was sitting on the bed with him when they came in and told him his
Mm.
time frame. I
Mm.
mean, it was less than 6 months, and 25% of the people don't make it that long, and that's pretty tough to hear. And
Mm.
so, not too long after, I'll tell this story because it
Mm.
meant a lot to me. But I had a dream about him, and this is just my brother-in-law's personality. But I'm at my home, and he just comes walking in unannounced, and he's wearing a yellow polo style shirt, which I've never seen him in yellow. He doesn't wear a polo style shirt, and he walks in my back door and raises his arm and says, "It's gone, bitches."
No way.
That was what he said. And I answered him in my dream. I said, "What's gone?" He said, "Cancer is gone." And I woke up. So the next morning, I couldn't get it off my brain. So I told my wife about it, and I said, "I'm ordering him a yellow polo shirt. I don't know what it means. I don't know, but I got it in. I took it to him, and I said, knowing the diagnosis that they give him, I handed it to him. I said, when you're cancer free, you wear this shirt, and you tell me it's gone, just like you did in my dream." Probably 6 months later, he's wearing the yellow shirt.
Don't you do it. Woo!
He's cancer free. His MRIs are clear. He's going through his immunizations now just because, the starting over. It's like a baby. This guy whipped it. Now, I'm telling you, if you don't pay attention to those dreams or those thoughts that are hitting you back here, you need to, because I know in my heart, my belief what it was, but
yeah.
I got a picture of us standing side by side, and he's got his yellow shirt on, and I'll never forget that.
Wow, wow, wow. I mean,
so we're blessed.
Wow. I had kind of forgotten about, because I know you had told me, you're like, hey, it doesn't look good. We need we need to mount up, like prayer warriors mount up. And
absolutely.
And so we were doing that. And then, I don't know why I don't remember you telling me the golf shirt store, the yellow shirt store. That's powerful. And man, you can't make this stuff up. And for those that think that God doesn't do things like that, like in dreams, and then giving people that faith to stand on, and then just like him healing miraculously, like, I don't know what you're believing in if you don't buy into that. Because Billy you didn't really just kind of grit your teeth real hard, and you didn't wish it to happen, and he didn't hold on to a rabbit's foot in the hospital. Like this was supernatural, brother. Wow. That's a good story, dude. What did your your daughters, like you said that they are very spiritual and very like intentional about their relationship with the Lord. Man, I know everybody was praying, of course. And what was their takeaway in that?
In the fact of what happened alone, I can just imagine how much deeper their faith is. Their thoughts on that story was just like I thought. It's like that was meant to happen. That who am I? I don't have anything to. I didn't give him a magic shirt. It was just something that I felt like needed to follow through. And they're way better than I am when it comes to faith and speaking on it. And I don't know, they're just good kids. We were not to backtrack, we were not bad kids.
Right.
But we have tremendous kids.
People talk about outkicking their coverage when they marry up, right? I mean, we outkicked our coverage with the kids we had by miles. So, perfect point. You talk about how they're much better at you, and you maybe you pray in private, and maybe you're not this guy that preaches at a church on Sunday, but and you could have easily dismissed that dream. Like a lot of people would have just been like, well, that was kind of freaky, but cool. But I mean, and then just left it. What made you go forward with something there?
I have never, I've had a lot of dreams that I thought were amazing. I killed the biggest buck, caught the biggest fish. I had all this stuff that, and I've had, dreams of sitting and talking with my mom. You know, I've had all these, but something about this dream wouldn't go away. And it seemed like you and I talking right now. It was, I mean, I can picture it right now, him coming in my back door. It was just, I don't know how to explain it, but it was different. And it was very vivid. And I just felt like I had to do something. Just like, you know, when I said earlier about if you get that feeling and John pops up in my brain, shoot him a text or whoever it might be. That could be that moment that someone's going, you know, get a hold of them, make sure they're okay. So, you know, I've always been, all right, in certain times I've said, you know, I don't care if people think or whatever. But, you know, I really do. I really do. And that's not my guide, you know, or my compass, but, you know, I think a lot about my mom. You know, I'll think a lot about that before I do something. Hell, I thought your dad crosses my mind. I'm like, what? Would I be running foul poles if he saw me do this? You know, I mean, seriously, we've had, it was like, it was burned in our head, like, you know, do right. Sure. And, you know, I always think about, you know, an uncle that taught me a lot about hunting and fishing, you know, like, am I doing this ethically? Like, you know, so when I say that I don't care what people think, maybe right here initially, but I'm always thinking about the ones we've lost, about, you know, am I performing? Am I doing what you would be proud of? Do I need to, you know, and I don't know if that's right or wrong or weird or whatever, but I do think of it.
Well, I think we want to honor people and no different than we want to honor God and what he's given us, you know, to kind of steward over and manage and take care of. And I mean, to think about people who have gone before us and what they would be saying in a moment. I think about that. I don't know if it's too much, but I think about it a lot. And I don't know if it drives me. Maybe it does drive, you know, me in a direction where I might have gone somewhere else if I would have been self-absorbed to just get what I think I deserve or whatever. But yeah, I know there's something to it. And I wonder how many people get that tap on the shoulder. Maybe it's not a vivid dream, but I wonder about people that, you know, that know when it's not bad pizza, right? They know it's the Lord and the Holy Spirit, because the Holy Spirit does tap us and does live in us and does like guide us. I wonder, you know, I bet it's common that we just kind of dismiss that. Like, I probably do it. And I guess it's because I'm thinking what you're thinking. Man, if I go up to somebody and be like, hey, you know, I feel like really impressed to share this with you. Like, they're going to be like, you know, the world's full of freaks. We don't need another one of those kind of deals. So I think it's cool that you actually, because God knows what you will respond to. He knows what I'll respond to. God knew that he was going to get that dream as real as you could get it and not take it away from you. And for days or weeks or whatever after, it would not leave you. He knew what would drive you to action. Right. And just like he knows me. So I mean, I think it's awesome, and maybe that's a key for you to maybe you'll have more of those, and you know what to do with it.
I pay attention to it a lot. I move on my thoughts. I really do. I was at the convenience store, the gas station one day, and a guy pulls up, and there's other people around, and his music is as loud and obnoxious as you can imagine. The guy's tatted up from, you know, just looks like he's getting ready to not do good. And I'm right next to him. And anyway, so, you know, I'm a 80s hairband guy, you know, that's I love, and all kinds of music. But anyway, something drove me to walk around and say something to him. And all I said is, what is that song? And he was very defensive. He's like, what's it matter? What are you doing? I was like, oh no. Okay. I said, I like it. I said, I just want to know who it is so I can download it. And he was like, and that guy ended up talking to me for 15 minutes. It was so, I mean, just showing me his playlist. It's like, yeah, you'll like this one too. You and I trade songs a lot, but I
Yep.
had never heard this song. And I was like, it probably could have been not so loud and all that stuff. But nevertheless, he didn't expect me to come up and enjoy what he was doing. So it took him off guard. And he was just like, oh, well, I don't have to knuckle up. I can just have a conversation. And so things like that, I'm always, if somebody drops something, don't think, man, should just do it. Just
Right.
pick it up.
Right.
And, I don't
So
know.
what did you now hold on a sec. I can't gloss over this. Now hold on a sec. I've known you for 50 years. Hold on.
Yes.
I know so the listeners won't get this, the magnitude, but I know how far Billy Long has come in his life from a maturity standpoint, from a just kind of gracious to your fellow man standpoint. Not that you weren't always sort of that way, but if a guy would have said that to you after you said, well, what's that song? I don't know that it would have gone super pleasant the next 15 minutes. So
No.
what the heck changed?
I was a very hair triggered person. I mean, my dad was that way. I was just, our reaction was not to think it through. That's dumb. We just, and as I've grown up, still growing up, with the help of my kids, with the help of my wife, with the help of, I've got tremendous friends around me. They probably still wouldn't agree that patience is my best attribute, but I've learned that reaction isn't always good or deserving of the other person. So I've learned that the hard way over time.
Yep.
Me. And so I've always said that I learned hard and expensive lessons, and I'm slow to burn, I guess, and or slow to learn, I should say.
Right.
And I finally, it just doesn't matter anymore. It just doesn't really. It's just,
which is a good thing. That's a good thing because the small crap doesn't matter anymore. Yeah, exactly.
No, I've got so much good that. Now, I'm not saying I don't get angry if somebody cuts me off in traffic or cuts in a line that you've been waiting in or whatever. Those are just, I think that's just human nature. But
that's right.
Old Billy probably would have went and visited with them, and we'd have come to an understanding.
Yep.
But now I'm like, I mean, maybe they needed it more than I did. Maybe they had an emergency they needed to get to, and I was in the way or something. I think about stuff that makes sense. It's almost like I'm mature, but I know I'm not.
I would think that would cover the whole entire group listening to this and hosting this. Yeah.
It's like I'm trying, but I promise you this. My kids and my wife have held me accountable to really look deeper than the surface, because it doesn't always just affect what I'm dealing with. It could be pretty broad, and I don't want that for anybody. So and I don't I'm too lazy.
I think it's good.
To do anything.
Yeah, I think it's good that we've gotten to a place where maybe we pick our battles now, because neither one of us are pushovers, but we're also not hair triggered anymore because there's too much to lose now. I mean, back then we're just living, day to day at best.
I can't imagine getting away with some of the times that we were part of today and the consequence. But, again, maybe learning, the hard lesson was the way to get that push in the back or whatever that finally makes you go, oh, okay. And now I look like I don't want to look like an idiot anymore, So
No, it's
I don't
good.
know.
That's good. I wanted to ask you, and I might have should have asked it earlier, but because I might digress from here. But man, have you ever been help the listeners? Now, I want to qualify before I ask you the listeners because I think there are people that get here, whether you've been a Christian your whole life, whether you're just learning how to read the Bible, whatever it is, where you're learning how to pray. What do we do? Have you ever been mad at God? And what do you do when that happens? Maybe you're not in those situations anymore. Maybe doubt's a better word than mad at God. Do you ever just like have those doubts creep in? Because you mentioned when the cancer came back for your sister-in-law, you were like, why? What
Yeah,
we learned our lesson, that kind of thing. Why now? Why again? Why all this?
you know, and this I've always heard, and I can't probably elaborate on it, but I've always heard, there's a reason. There's a
Mm,
reason for everything that,
mm,
God has his purpose. And goofy enough, that's always been enough for me.
mm, mm.
I just know, I mean, what am I going to question? I don't like the circumstance. I don't, my mom passed away, oh, that still feels like yesterday.
Mm.
I'll hear music or do something or whatever. Crying was not a good thing in my household
Sure.
growing up. You just didn't do it. Well, since my mom passed, I'm a ball bag. I mean, something happens and it relates, and I'm like, I'm just
Yep.
kind of like,
Yep.
and at first I
You're
kind
like,
of,
it's pollen. It's the
yeah,
pollen. Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, it's,
It's my allergies.
it's like, yeah. And now I'm just like, things are uh, they just hit you deeper or something like that. And but to be mad, as honestly, and I'm sure there's been being mad and questioning, are just two different things. I've
Yep.
questioned a lot.
Yep.
I've tried to reason, figure all this stuff, and I'm not smart enough. I just
Mm,
have to trust and faith that
mm,
that it's going the way it's supposed to go. Now, I've had help with these miracles, these blessings in my life to see, just take a step back, just kind
mm.
of let it develop and see what comes out of it. That's not always going to be good. You got to, if you're expecting, to win the race every time, you're really going to be disappointed.
Mhm.
But I think if you really, in my case, and I don't want to sound like I'm trying to put mine out there on anybody because I don't know if mine's the right way. This is just me.
For sure.
But I just look at it a little more broad and know that there's a purpose, and however it comes out is the way it comes out. Because I sure didn't want my mom's ending,
Mhm.
nor your dad's, nor
Mhm.
whatever, but we didn't have a hand in that. We didn't have a hand in that at all. So
Yeah.
um, I don't know. I've always just wanted to um, be available, be open to thoughts.
Mhm.
Because I get a lot of different reactions and people's opinions and stuff when this stuff comes around. Um, but I'm not the one, and maybe I should be more, but to be more vocal. I don't
Mhm.
know. I don't know if
Yeah.
I'm maybe just saying that for this. I don't know because
I don't
that's
know. I mean,
that's
who
at the
knows?
time.
Yeah. I
I
don't know if there's
mean,
a right or wrong answer, honestly.
somebody
I
will
mean,
punch me in the nose for saying the
no,
wrong
no,
thing.
no. I think you should let the Lord kind of like you're doing, like you feel like you're led to do something and you do it. Like I don't think you're trying to be judgmental and just like come out as the authority because nobody wants that.
No, my wife always says that I'll talk to anything. I'll just
Yeah.
talk to a wall, or if I'm in a store and we see somebody, she'd just rather go to the car or whatever because she knows I might just be standing there. But this is something that I always remembered growing up in church, and I will not get it right. You'll know it, but there's some kind of scripture out there that says something like, if I knock, will you let me in?
Mm-hmm.
Have you? So, meaning, and I may have got that wrong, but I've always felt like that means not at my door.
Sure.
But if somebody comes up to me in a store or somebody, whatever, I'm going to take the time to address them and let them be heard, because I feel like that, again, the scripture, I don't know it.
No, you're right. There is one,
up,
and I know. Yeah. I can't tell you the chapter and verse.
I always like
it
was Jesus knocking on the door.
Yep.
Will you let me
come in and dine with me? Yeah, you invite him in. Yeah.
See, I'm that guy. I'm like, yes, come in now. I may learn after you come in that wasn't the best move.
Yeah.
But I've always felt like I never had that hesitancy to listen, to wait. Sometimes if you just, put on pause what you're doing, let somebody do their thing, that may mean the world. So I get my kids and my wife, they're always like, my God, you talk. I may be rambling now. Probably.
My wife does the same. Like she walking through a lobby somewhere at a church or a gathering of some kind, she just goes and she's like, you do your thing, because she knows I'm going to talk to 3 people and it could be 20 minutes. Like I'm going to play this back for her because I'm not the only one that does that. I am not the only one. But yeah, there's a scripture too that says we unknowingly entertain angels. Now, do what you will with that. But that to me says God will send people. He does, and based on how we welcome them and being sensible in it too. But you're not just going to let downtown Tulsa,
right.
Skid Row in your house. But if one of those people come up to you, it's he says you just don't know. That could be an angel seeing what you're about, like whether or not you're welcoming. So that's just how we were raised, I think.
I've struck out on that same theory. I was at a gas station one day and a guy came up to me and said he needed gas money to get to see his mom in the hospital. And I was like, I'm not going to give you money, but pull your car around here and I'll fill it up. Well, while I was filling his car up, he comes out of the store with chips, pop, candy, all this stuff. And I'm like,
where'd you get that?
But hey, if he needed snacks to get to see his mom and gas, so there's 2 sides to it, but
for sure.
I don't know. I don't want to ignore it.
All right, man. So before we, we could talk forever. I tried purposely not to relive all of our memories because there are a lot. I will say though, and I don't know if I've ever shared this on the podcast, but because I talk about family and friends and growing up, but I do attribute meeting my wife to this guy that is our guest because he left college prematurely, which forced me to go to a different college, which I met my wife at. So I'll bore you all the details, but had this guy been an optometrist and stayed in school, I may not have the family I have right now or the wife I have. So thank you for that.
There'd be so many cross-eyed people out there right now down that road. It wasn't my calling.
That never entered my mind to be in medicine, but yet for some reason they're trusting me to sell medicine. I don't know. It's a weird deal.
And that's what all my kids do. And I would like to say too that I am blessed with 2 of the best son-in-laws that you can have. And I'm telling you, as a dad, that's a very, I pay attention to stuff with little girls. I have been blessed with 2 amazing men in our lives. So anyway,
that's good, because I can't imagine being that guy that comes in to meet you
Well,
For
I mean,
to date your daughter or marry your daughter, like I cannot imagine being that guy. So they've got to be pretty solid individuals.
they're incredible. So
That's good. That's good.
again, blessed.
Yeah, yeah. Well, before I let you go, I need you to do me a favor, and I don't know. You can take as long as you want on this, but your unborn grandchild, yeah, hook
Oh,
horns down, or all your grandchildren for that matter, the one you have now, and then the one to be. Like, give us some life advice for our
whoa.
grandchildren. Yeah, yeah. You gotta sum that up in like I don't know
I
how long, but
mean,
what do you want to say to that unborn grandchild right now?
oh wow. Honor your word. That's
Mm,
that's big in my book. My raising was in our household, lying was not
mm,
favored. So yeah, honor your word. People will follow you if
mm.
you treat them good. Be believable, be leaders. I know
That's
those are
good.
very vague and
That's
general, but
good.
you know, just and make a difference. Get out there and do something that um, you think isn't you. Go be a welder. And enjoy a career. But I I I don't know. That was a pretty good question, John.
Well,
Wow.
I knew I was going to catch you off guard with that one, and I didn't plan to ask it until I don't know, maybe
Wow.
5 minutes
I
ago. But I always catch my guests off guard, and maybe that's the cardinal rule against top podcasts. Though you probably should never do that. But I just wanted to, I think it's important to think about kind of our legacy. Of course, that gets used a lot. That word, it's a big fancy word, but
yeah,
I mean, I just like to know what people would say to the next generation. We've had kids, now we're having grandkids, and I think it's important because we've done a lot of wrong things, but we've also done a lot of really right things and good things. And I think it's
yes,
our time in this journey to be that sort of not just talk down to people and teach them everything, but give them some encouragement, give them some advice, give them
yeah,
some
yeah,
love. But no, I like that. I mean, you could stop at honor your word and that would be good enough. Like
yeah,
that's enough
yeah,
in today's world.
yeah. Just you don't have to fall into what other people do and think. Step out
Yeah.
there and take a chance and
Yeah.
see how it lands. So
Yeah.
um, I
That's good.
I feel like I mean, this with you doing this podcast, this is the first time had to be a little
Crazy.
nerve wracking for you. And
Sometimes it still is. Yeah.
well, it doesn't show. I watch them and I take things away from them. So know that. And
That's
everyone
good.
else that probably watches this
That's
probably
good.
takes their things away from it. But it's impressive.
Thank you.
And, on the flip
That's good.
side, I am proud of what you do. So,
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And man, it's all about
yeah.
who I bring on, and it's nothing. It's just being able to ask a question, man. But it's been, you talked to me. We talked beforehand, and we were like, because I kind of had that little bit of it wasn't nervous, but it was just like, man, I get to see Billy. I'm anticipating, and I'm like, this is gonna feel a little strange because neither of us are cut from this kind of cloth, really. I mean, I don't
No.
know how I even did it, but I'm glad I did because I've gotten to meet some really cool people and maybe help some people along the way. But I appreciate you doing this, dude. This has been awesome. Uh,
Anytime, anytime. And I make sure you give your mama a hug for me.
I
I
for sure
miss
will.
her.
I know there will be at least one person listening to this, and it'll probably be her at least.
Well,
Her.
I told you before this. I said I was nervous, and I'm not a nervous person, but I thought, man, I don't want to be the guy that destroys all that you've
Oh,
you've
geez.
built up. I want to be like, click, he's gone.
Nope,
So,
nope,
but
nope.
I appreciate you thinking of me and asking me, and
Yep.
I love you to death. And
Love you, man.
anytime you need anything, all you got to do is pick up the phone.
Audience, I'm probably not going to put his information in the show notes because I don't need y'all calling Billy asking him where the fish are biting since he's retired. But he is one of the great ones and good as gold, and you won't find another one like him. So, with that, he's been the one and only Billy Long. We've been last in line. Be blessed.